Happy Friday. Um, Feels good, right? Sunny day, summer, and in Utah, of course, we have this little celebration that we do, and that's a nice time when it falls on a Monday, right? So hopefully you guys have a great weekend and we can start this off. Um, yes, I am in the Orem office full time. And coordinate the webinars. So you can always email me, Carol at Blomquist, that's with a Y, C-A-R-Y-L at blomquisttail.com. So if you ever have any questions or comments or need the PowerPoint to any of the past workshops we've done, I have most of those or all of them, or I will find one if I didn't do it. And we can always send you information or anything else, or you can contact us for more about our benefit. So we're going to get started. Of course, if you know me, I pack it all in. I don't ever apologize for going fast. You will get this workshop recording and the PowerPoint. So we will just keep going. And as Heather said, please, please chat, ask questions, raise your hand, whatever you need to do, and interrupt me, and we'll have a little discussion or questions. If I, going too fast, I don't clarify something, please help me clarify that, because everyone else will understand that too. So I will be going through the chat here and there. So I'll stop for a minute and answer some questions in there too. So, and then at the end. So we're going to talk about this tapping in. And you'll understand that later, how we're going to connect the body to the emotions. I always say there's like a lot of things are my favorite things, but this is like my thing. This is my specialty. This book, Tapping In, this is my mantra. So I love doing body-mind connection. When I first became a clinical therapist, and I was already a family life educator in my undergrad, and I had 3 certifications before I became a therapist in that realm. And I was, I was a clinical therapist, and the thing is I've always been functional medicine wise and integrated medicine related and interested. And so I've done a lot of summits and a lot of training, and I'm a certified integrated medicine provider for mental health. So I love it, love it, love it, love it. So just go with the flow with me on this one. This one's, and then of course, how all these emotions are connected to the organs. So if there's something in here that is eye-opening to you, I hope so. And I hope we're all here to learn and to be open-minded and like, oh, okay, this is just how these emotions connect with the body. And of course, how to get rid of the ones that we don't want, but they serve us and they're okay. But then how to tap into the ones that we want to add and increase in our life, because that's really important. Okay, so we're going to talk about balance. We're going to talk about emotional IQ, how anger and liver are connected, how to listen to the signs of the body. We've got to go into the body first, right? And listening to those signs, and mental health connected to the emotion, mental health connected to the body. I could do multiple areas of this. We might have to do more, right? Liver, I just picked liver because it's connected to anger. So there's lots of other, organs that do a lot of other things that are connected. If you ever, I'll talk about sleep a little bit, but you can go into another workshop that I have listed in this PowerPoint about that, about circadian rhythm. And every hour almost of the whole circadian rhythm is connected to an organ. So, and it connected to an emotion. So look at that later. That's something different, but it's the same concept. How we're going to tap into that. It's a technique. And then of course, some coping skills and treatment that I try to always include, of course, like here's how we treat, and here's some ideas on how to detox the liver, for example. So body keeps the score. Van der Kolk, for sure, people who feel safe in their bodies can begin to translate the memories that previously overwhelmed them into language. So meaning his quote is saying, here's the previous overwhelming, which is our whole past, right? Which is where we store trauma and anxiety and a lot of emotion in our cells of our body. And so when we can feel safe in our body, we can now translate those memories, or we can help language those and put a label to them. And I constantly teach how to be emotionally intelligent, how to label those emotions, how they serve us, how they are all just signs. There's nothing bad or good or right or wrong or positive or negative about emotions. So it's really hard. So if here's positive emotions, here's negative emotions. Okay. They're all just to serve us, and they're all just signs, especially signs for the body. So yes, someone said that they've, body keeps the score. Yes, it's very deep. So as I quote him, he's in the back of this PowerPoint for sure. I have to do a little disclaimer. His book's right there. Take it slow. Do not read the whole book. Skip over full chapters if you want to, because it's very deep. Don't get triggered if you don't need to be. It's a trauma book about the body and trauma. And so, of course, he talks a lot of different things. So just a little disclaimer there on his book. So just take it slow. I always have people read books, not front to back, ever. You just pick a chapter and read it 3 or 4 times, the one that speaks to you. Okay, so the balance. You've seen this wheel that I've, constructed multiple times in other workshops, I'm sure. But this is just how you balance. And so it's always physical, mental, social, emotional, spirituals together. So today we're talking about physical, spiritual, emotional, in that balance. So it's like, okay, here's some grounded IQ. I call it grounded IQ. What is your grounded IQ? How grounded are you? How intelligent are you in the presence, in mindfulness? And that's a whole other workshop. But how do we learn about our bodies? One way is to learn about emotions, how to sit in that space. So that's getting still. That's hard for a lot of us to get still. And when I'm teaching the anxiety program that we have that runs 5 weeks, we talk all about every aspect of this. Honestly, we go through all of it. And so it's like, we have a hard time being still, or accepting our emotions without shaming ourselves, or informing our healthy choices to our physical body, our healthy choices, sleep, diet, and exercise, and those connections, right? So if you want to see where you're balanced, by the way, little tip here, you just keep track of your time for 1 week. It's super easy. We all have 168 hours in a week. We all can track that pretty simply. I have everything down to the wire in an elephant journal book planner. So you have a planner, you have a scheduler, you know where your time is. And then go back to those empty spaces and go, wait, what did I do between 8 and 10 that night? Oh, I watched Netflix. Oh, yeah. So what area does Netflix go into? Just a distraction. If it's over 2 hours, it's an avoidance. So we see how much of avoiding we are doing and not being mindful. So 168 hours in the week, where does all your time go? You'll see where you're out of balance real quick. Let me check here. Okay, so here's a little, it's not at the end. I think I moved it up, but the quiz is right here for this emotional IQ or your grounded IQ. I just like, okay, how grounded are you? How smart are you in your grounding? So the ability to find awareness, managing your skill set of relations to self and well-being. There's your definition of that. So awareness, identifying emotions. Now, I teach about, we want to know, and I'm going to teach, and there's a handout in here about your primary and secondary emotions too. But here's your identifying primary emotions. Super easy. Most of us can do that. Most children can find 10 of those basic emotions, and most of them are primary. Secondary is what comes out of the primary. So as adults, honestly, if you want to get emotionally intelligent, the first thing you do is find 30 emotions before 3 o'clock every day. 30 emotions, 30 secondary emotions. Find them, write them down, be looking for them, understanding them, processing them, right? And you go into measuring them and managing them then later. If you don't know what you're doing and what your mindfulness, what your presence is doing, then you will not measure or manage them. And it's not to take them away. It didn't say eliminate them. We don't eliminate emotions. We measure them and manage them. And so that's where it's super important to get to that point, right? In stepping stones. So emotions are past chemicals, and those chemicals are actually stored in our body, in our cells. Okay, got that down? Stepping into the unknown is judgment on the past when you do choose to change. Love the quote of like stepping stones. Love it, love it, love it. Because it's all like, here's these stepping stones to the next step of management. But first we got to be aware and do all those things up there first. So the thing is, go back to this a little bit. Okay, so the unknown, this is why this next slide is here. Stepping into the unknown. This is what terrifies most people. And so I do a lot of future templates. We do some past stuff, here's past trauma, but here's the future, right? So anxiety, different things, worrying about the future, right? Is very stressful. So it can be, an event, 1 month to a short-term time, right? It can actually be an event. It can be an adjustment in your life of 6 months of like you moved or changed jobs. For kids, it's all different kinds of adjustments. A baby's born, someone's sick. Post-traumatic is that 6 months plus where it's just continuous, right? Trauma, emotional loss, grief, powerless, the unseen versus the seen. And I'm going to talk about that later, but this is just a little bit of a visual to see where you are in the unknowns and the knowns, okay? And the unseens and the scenes. So basically, our brain goes off experience. You have to just write that down. Our brain goes off experience. It is hijacked, this experience is hijacked by knowledge. So knowledge doesn't matter. When our brain is in the back of our brain, midbrain to back, those two, not the frontal lobes. The frontal lobes is where we do all the self-talk and the good stuff, and can make decisions. We get hijacked by knowledge. This is knowledge up here, our two frontal lobes, this mindfulness, this wise mind. And so when this gets hijacked, we are definitely going off experience. Oh, that's what happened in the past. This is what happens in the meeting. This is when people yell at me. This is, all these things. And so where's joy? Where's confidence? Where's, any of the secondary emotions for when we feel understood? Or it goes off experience of like, wait, I can be understood. I can have power. I'm not in trauma, in those trauma emotions. So really we have to create a new experience over and over and over and over again. And that's actually what we do in prolonged exposure in EMDR, trauma-focused therapies, is redo the experience. So our brain says, oh, I have a different experience. Whether it happened or not, you can actually produce that. That's what we're going to do a little bit today. So this is one of my handouts, and anything that has it's my personal handouts that I've had for years and I've made myself for practice. And so this is stepping into the unknown, right? So here's irritability and stuffing and denial and overwhelmed and emotional numbness and rage, and right, we got that going on with fatigue, burnout, depression, all those trauma brain, stress brain. Okay. So we have pain, or we get into perfectionism. We have protective features and parts of us. They're protector parts, they're called. And we get powerless, and then we panic, right? So those are my favorite P words to switch over. So this is like, how do we switch over to this side of the screen of like courage and acceptance and connecting with our unharmed part of our body? That's my favorite thing. How do you connect with your unharmed part, or your unhealthy, your healthy part or your unhealthy part? It's like, oh, let's find a healthy part of our bodies and tap into those parts, because that will replace and hijack the experience of over here. So we want to go to this side. This is a positive. This is how we get into joy. This is how we get into tapping in the positive cognitions, all of it. How to release shame, how to tap in grounding and balance and power, because we're present when we're going into power or the knowns, instead of saying, oh, I'm powerless, I don't know anything, I don't know what the unknown is. So that's proactive. That's, instead of being reactive. Got it? Okay. Everybody doing okay? Any questions so far? Send them in the chat or anything else. Oh, by the way, so here's some fatigue, burnout, thinking errors, and emotional numbness. Oh, wait, how do we get out of this emotional numbness? There's several in irritability. So I have a workshop for every single one of these that I've listed in the back of this PowerPoint, that you can go further with this. Of course, there's shame. I've got lots of a couple shame ones and shame parenting, thinking errors. There's some fatigue ones like compassion fatigue. I have a teacher burnout workshop that, or any kind of compassion fatigue, go into that one. Emotional intelligence part 1 and part 2. Irritability isn't my style was one of a really popular one that I did years ago. So you can go to the YouTube channel and watch those, because there's so much more, right? Someone asked, can you repeat about the unknowns? So the unknowns are your brain going off experience. We don't know what the future holds, right? The unknowns are like, I don't know how this person's going to react in the meeting, because last time they were really, passive aggressive. Okay. Or how your teenager's going to act when you tell them to clean their room. I don't know, anything in the future. So we just we go off by experience. And guess what that does? It holds us back, because we jump to conclusions. We have lots of thinking errors because we don't know what is known in the future. It really messes us up. But if we can experience something different and tap into, hey, this is what I'm going to do when this meeting comes up. And I do a lot of future templates, it's called, on that subject of like how to have power, how to pace yourself, how to, have passion, have a better physical reaction instead of just a reaction. Okay. Make sense? Hopefully that helped a little bit. So this is a whole lot. Okay. My favorite ever is to tie in thinking errors with flight, fight, or freeze, or how to be an assertive person. These are the 3 types of anger. So we're just going to focus on one emotion, anger, the secondary emotion from mad, and joy, secondary emotion from happy. Okay, opposite. So we're going to talk about anger and joy and how those show up in the body, how to get tapping into more joy and releasing anger, because you can't be in the same space. You just can't. It's like shame and empathy can't be in the same space. They cannot be at the same time. Depression part of the brain does not light up when you are in creative part of the brain. Same thing. You can't be in both. So usually it's like all or nothing, right? Well, let's just kind of float into some of their in between and be like, okay, I can get to joy, but I have to release anger. I have to get out of fight, flight, or freeze, because in the frontal lobes is where we're going to have a lot more calm body. Okay. When we're in the back of the brain, if you will, that's how I describe it, the anxiety program. When you're in fight, flight, or freeze, you ain't going to be in there. You're not going to be in the positive part of your thinking errors, the positive part of your thinking, your thoughts, your feeling, in those ways of, but anger serves us. We're not going to take it away. It's just there, but we have to float back in. So there's clues to this. Okay. If you're going in a looping cycle and you can't get out of that, if you can't get out of the back of the brain and get back to your frontal lobes, which is your thoughts, feelings, and behavior just cycling, right? Then usually you're in a thinking error, you're in an emotional state, you're in a physical reaction, which is your body, you're in a heightened state, of course, and you're having behavior because of it. So we have to figure out how to self-talk, get back into that other part of our brain, which is in the front, and get more assertive and direct. And this is when we can say these words, which we do not do this well if we're not here in the frontal lobes. I feel and I need and I'm willing to do. So, but remember, go all the way back to the emotions. You have to know what you're feeling in order to get to your behavior. You have to have a thought, you have a behavior, and then you like have another thought, and then you're like, okay, feeling. But so you got to go all the way back to emotional intelligence. So it's stepped, you step into it. It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to know how I feel and I'm going to be direct and respectful. That's not how it's going to work. Especially if you're moving towards your stress brain. So those are the definitions of 3 types of anger. If you're going to be aggressive, passive aggressive, or passive. Assertive is not a type of anger, but it's under the same direction of that. So so just getting out of the anger loop, knowing that you have to get to assertive, but you have to be in the frontal lobes. You have to be able to self-talk. And that is presence. That's hard to get there after you've been repeatedly looping in a cycle. So, okay, so this is just a handout, the next couple. So this is explaining that. So grief, loss, trauma, and powerless on this side of my will. I made this years and years ago when I was teaching substance abuse classes and parenting classes and anger management classes. And so scared, mad, sad, shame, you're in some sort of loss, grief, and trauma. If you're in powerless and you're in all 4, you are in more of that crisis brain that we started in that other slide. So it's a crisis now because you've got all of it going on at the same time. When you feel understood, you have a higher purpose, and you have worth, self-worth, self-esteem, self-concept. Those are all different things, but in the same category of worth. Then we feel confident, worthwhile, and creative and appreciated. So we go, we feel comfortable and grateful and appreciative and balanced and joy and peace. So when we enter this peaceful part, we usually are in this higher purpose place, and we have understanding of self. We feel understood. So just know that. This is just a little, just a visual that I find helpful, because what's really going on is these outside, not, here's the secondary emotions, all these words. So when you want to get emotionally intelligent, you need to find those 30 words, emotions, then this will help you. Okay. And then this goes with the cycle, the emotional cycle handout. So this just goes through the steps, and I'm going to teach you 5, which is the practice part, because this is all just, another workshop that you can look at. But this one's, okay, now we're going to practice some emotional regulation, some higher purpose, some willingness, openness, to getting grounded in that. So those are just, and then this is the other hand. So these are just 3 that I just threw in the middle, because they are, I didn't do them separate handouts. They're just in the PowerPoint that you'll get. So if you want to do this, you will just take a little quiz. It's not about the numbers, but you can see, oh, I have this many 5s, I have this many 2s, and you can make your own conclusion to, spitting out your data, right? So it's just some questions to ask yourself for some awareness. Okay, so practicing this is essential. This is not easy, so keep practicing this, because we have to practice this in order to move into joy and to tap in some more peace in that way, right? So, of course, back to emotional regulation, wise mind. 10-minute distractions are just something that we're going to do for 10 minutes. We're cleaning out something. We're going to call someone. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to do 4 square breathing. We're going to mind dump. That means that we're going to write something down and get it out of us. We're going to write down 10 emotions that we're having and where we find it in our body. And then you're going to get rid of it. Mind dumping, the key always is to get rid of it. This is not to reread, not to hash over, not to re-traumatize yourself with again and again and again. That's why people that keep things on their phones or keep things to remind them of this awful text and awful conversation you had with somebody, get rid of that. Don't reread it. So open up space for something else. Vulnerability, creativity and connection, compassion, and courage. Those are Brene Brown's, using those 4 C words and to get into wholehearted living. You can get more into that of Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And I have that. Oh, someone just read that. Someone just posted that. So that's a book that I have probably listened to over a dozen times and read over a dozen times. I have it pretty much memorized in the different guideposts. So very, very well. It's right there. I have several copies of it. So you just do your best in grabbing onto one of those guideposts, like creativity, and reread it and do it and then implement it into your life. You have to practice that for 6 months plus. Read it 6 to 7, 8, 10, 12 times. And it's only 4 pages. So if you read that guidepost and really understand and dig deep and get deliberate, is what she has you do in the end of each chapter. So that's that. Higher purpose, just know what you're doing. Go back to your balance. Time. Higher purpose is intentional time. What do you do with your time and how do you get into that purpose? Well, you have to have an intentional time. You have to have an intentional reason, higher purpose. And then you've got to be open-minded with a growth mindset and be willing to repair and start over and do your best. Just do your best. So that's a little bit about step 5 in emotional intelligence and emotions. Okay, so now let's get into the body. Now that we know a little bit about that, hopefully. The body brain connection. I mean, you've all heard of this, right? We know for a fact, scientifically, we know more now than we've ever known about the myth of normal, um, body keeps the score. We have neuroscience really 10 to 20 years, really 10 years. There's severe neuroscience now we did not have before. So we can't ignore that we can heal different parts of our body. We can't ignore that emotions and neuroscience and health all definitely come together. And I don't have this guy referenced, but it came up in our support group last night. Huberman is a neuroscientist that has connected all of these and has a wonderful podcast that goes over my head that I just love listening to. They're like 2.5 hours long usually. When he has a guest, they're just intense. They're just awesome. So I'll chat that later. Huberman Labs, Huberman.com, and he's everywhere. You can find his podcast. So it goes, you can search, any kind of body or sleep or all of his stuff on how performance. He does tons of that. So anyways, we create an environment in which our children and family feel safe and thrive. So don't forget that, we have to understand our environment, which is our body, but also the outside, right? So just make sure you don't forget about that. If you're in a toxic, traumatic, consistent, stressful environment, which America does live in at times, right? Then you might as well forget everything I've talked about right now. It is extremely important to have the environment safe so you can thrive. So you got to clean up that first. Literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, clean up your environment. And you'll see different workshops that I've done on that. If we ignore, these, we deprive our healing. We won't heal, and we can't understand our stress response, which understand doesn't say take away, it says friend it. You have to understand your fight, flight, or freeze stress response and your trauma in order to heal. You have to see what is going on in your body. The top of that chart, let me go back. And this is why it says, what is going on? Not the, I used to have it at the top. These are your prime. What is going on? It's not why. It's not why. I'm not a why therapist. I'm not. You can ask all the questions of why and see how far that gets you. There's about 1 million answers to that. So just forget it. Stop worrying about the whys and just know what's going on. So when we do, we can say, oh, what's going on is my flight response is going off experience and not knowledge. We are smart people, but man, we get hijacked. So our physical body just hijacks that. And that's the part we're going to get to today of healing some of that. So we don't have to go into that as hard. Okay. So this is one of my favorite little books. I've done extensive workshops and summits, they're called. And I was trained in some of those, and most of them are got lots and lots of different I guess speakers or talks, but this guy is super simple. I really like him. I ordered some of his books after I listened to several of his classes. So this is just a little slide on the liver. For example, if we're going to release our environment, outside environment, right, our mental environment, our physical environment. So this is a physical environment. This is also inside of us, right? So this is where we hold our toxins and anger. Liver is connected to anger. So this little heal your body, cure your mind, your liver and emotional well-being, and toxins, liver and toxins. So If you have a tendency to be angry or irritable, and you saw that in the description, or it's like, oh, I need more joy to hijack my anger. So then we've got to go deeper. Because if that's a constant for you, it is something inside more. I almost, it can be more. So just jot down some things, you research it yourself. Number 1, leaky gut. Number 2, liver issues, which you don't know you have, which is called fatty liver, just like leaky gut. We are now finding almost 90% of people are in a leaky gut situation. Leaky gut, real quick, I'll just explain it, is where your gut lining doesn't hold the toxins in where they're supposed to. This is just some, just simple description. And your gut lining gets worn out, basically, or it has holes in it. And guess what happens then? All your toxins, which our environment is full of, completely, extremely full of now than ever before, leaks into your bloodstream, and then your liver is supposed to get rid of those toxins. If our liver is fatty and our gut is leaky, we have got some problems, and that's going to add to all of the other mental health issues. I promise you, that's what I'm trained in. And that causes frustration and resentment, impatience, irritability. How could that be? Well, it does. Trust me. So there's ways to go further with this. The relationship between those two are very strong. Your diet, disease, toxins, if you're mold overloaded, if you're metal overloaded, if you are a highly sensitive person, you're going to have all of those going on. If you have an autoimmune disorder, that's because this started first, usually. People don't understand the gut connection to mental health. Well, almost 90% of your hormones of serotonin, melatonin, and dopamine are in the gut. And if your gut's leaky, your gut's not healthy, guess what? Those aren't working. And that actually can result in more anxiety and depression. So just know that. So that's why in the treatment later on another slide, I'll talk about some acupuncture. So this is chapter like your liver and emotional well-being, if you want to order this little book. He actually, this book, he's a doctor that goes, where does he go? I can't remember, but he actually treats third world countries, right? And all of his proceeds go to that cause. So that's a good little chapter. So you just find that. Here's castor oil and how to heal the liver. But the thing is, I'm not going to go into it too much more because I'm going to send you a whole PDF with this PowerPoint on how to detox the liver. Okay. So it's all connected. So yes, I'll read that one in a minute. About the leaky gut, and everyone can read that chat. That's good. Okay. So let's do this now. Ready? Let's do some tapping in. My favorite thing. Now, this is not meant to be triggering. Okay. If you're with me, if you're present, if you're not driving, check in with yourself for a minute. Just listen. If you don't do any of this. If you're doing something that you're with other people, you're driving, you're not present, you can't shut the door and just sit for a minute. So I am going to walk you through this actually really quickly. This is one of my, really hard to say because I'm always like so crazy. I'm a book hoarder. Okay. I hoard books and education. So this is one of my favorite books. I am extensively trained, and I have another one that I have that I paid for Purnell. So I am an EMDR trained, soon to be certified EMDR therapist. There is a big difference in that. It takes quite a bit to get certified. So I am still in the process of certification, many, many hours and consultations. So EMDR based bilateral stimulation, left to right sides of the brain. And that's all you're going to need to know. Just don't worry about the scientific part of this yet. This is just simple. I can teach you. I've wanted to do one of these, just teach and give it away. So you can buy the book, because this book is for the client, which is for you guys. It's not just for the clinician, but I do this constantly. You can tell. I help people learn this and then practice this. And this is to heal literally and to reduce anxiety, sleep problems, and trauma. And these are all positive, how to tap in positive things. These are future. When we do positive future, how do we find those memories that we've had and bring them back so they hijack the other memories, right? And then you practice this over and over. Lifting your spirit by finding joy, gratitude, and freedom, and returning wholeness to supporting the body's ability to heal. So she has a whole section on healing the body, and just body stuff. I mean, from anything that you know, from overcoming problems to healing an illness and an injury, and by tapping into that. Okay, so lots of stuff here. This is the basis of everything I do in trauma work. So let's tap in joy. So it's not difficult. You have choices. Butterflies, just this, and you can see me, see my hands. It's just a good, slow tap across the shoulders. So it hits both ears, so it's great, right and left. It's hitting both sides of your body. So on your knees, go up and down like this. Tapping your feet, your heels, up and down, okay? There's your 3 options that are super easy that you do on yourself, okay? So get in a comfortable place if you want to do this, and we'll do it. I'm going to tap in joy with you. Okay, what brings you joy? Just reflect for a minute. When have you felt joy in your life? Joy bubbles up from your inner wellspring and bursts forth from the fountain, evoking tears and laughter. Joy opens our hearts. Memories of joy can help inspire and uplift us during times when we are feeling down. If you have difficulty thinking of a time when you felt joy, you can think of someone you know who is joyful. You know, like that one friend that just laughs all the time, just fun, right? Or someone that just radiates joy. Now, I pick joy because joy is a very hard emotion sometimes. And that's one that comes up the most in practice, in my practice, in treating a lot of people that can't or want to find more joy. So think of something that's, you know, it gives an example of like thinking of a person or a character on TV, or a TV show too, if you don't have anybody that, just someone that just reeks joy. You can even bring up an animal that gives you joy, like soaring eagles. And I brought an example of what that looks like for me. So we'll go through that. So finding joy, tapping in joy, finding a good place to sit that's quiet. And just let me coach you through this for a minute. So bring your awareness to the present moment. Feel yourself sitting. This is just an example of all these different ways that you can tap in different things. When you are here now, bring up a memory of when you felt joy. And if you can think of something from your adulthood or from your childhood. One now, maybe one when you were younger. Or bring up a book or character or an animal. When you have that image, open your senses, see what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you smell, what you're feeling with your skin, and what your body feels like. So I'm doing mine, and then bringing up that joy, okay? When you feel joy, just even a little bit, begin to tap. So then we just do 6 to 12. And just think of that thing, think of that joy, think of that emotion that's in your body. So make sure you find it in your body. Keep going if it stays positive. If something's hijacking you, then just stop tapping and go, oh, you're thinking about something else, thinking about not joy. Go back to joy, go back to that image or that memory, go back to it. Don't let it go away. And then start tapping again. As long as it stays positive, just do 6 or 12 of those again. Savor the feeling, let it go throughout your body, allow your heart to open and receive it. Continue if you want, think of something else. I'm having 2 now. I'm thinking of something that 2 major things that bring me joy, that I know bring me joy. Continue bringing up images and memories and tapping as long as they are positive and as long as they feel good to you. Okay, that was like 2 minutes, right? Tapping in humorous times, tapping in laughter. This is all the positive. So I want you to go one step further with me. What's your positive cognition about self when you calm the body and find a memory of joy? What do you feel about yourself? You write that down, you can share that. Anybody have an experience to share in the chat? Feel loved, because you can hijack an emotion. You can go into joy because love is connected to joy. So feel together, feel proud of myself, whole and warm. Oh, I feel super warm. So of course I can share this because it's going to be on YouTube forever, but the first time I really, and I will never forget the moment of really having like the strongest joy I've ever had in my life, was when my grandchild, my very first grandchild, crawled on my floor. The first time he crawled, he was like literally his first time and it was on my floor. And it's his birthday today. That kid is my whole like soul joy, right? So here's my sunflowers in the back. I brought them in to show you. So I grow and I pick flowers. I grow, for my joy. It's my solace, love. It's my serenity. It's everything. So I grow flowers so I can pick them myself and put them in my kitchen. I have a bouquet of flowers every single week in my house. So those are my sunflowers. So yes, find things, connect the dots with your behavior and your activities. So what if you had a setback and you found that it was hard for you to find joy in that moment that I just did with you? And then you have failure thoughts. And then you had, then you underfunctioned, and then you went to your stress brain, and then you're like, this is crazy. I don't want, and I feel like I feel crappy. I have a low self-esteem. So this is the cycle that hijacks us, by the way. So we can put a Band-Aid on it, or we can get therapy, or we can get some deeper work done. So I'm glad someone said that they had joy sweep over them in a memory, but then felt physical pain under the rib near the right hand. Literally feels like my liver fighting back. Oh, can I just share? Can I just speak to that for a minute? Exactly. That is exactly, if it was in that spot of your body, that's exactly what that just did. The body's amazing. It hijacks us so much. And then it stopped your memory from being happy. And it said, no, 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 go, your liver's like, oh, no, we can't handle that. Yep. And that is your liver. And that's when you need to massage that a little bit. You need to do some castor oil right there on your liver and some acupuncture. And the most healing I've ever experienced besides EMDR is acupuncture. So this is why we want some treatment. Full potential, coping with stress, you're more work productive, more productive at work, something like that. You develop a reward system, you connect with others, you avoid triggers, as because they're hijacked. Remember, what is hijacking? Your fight, flight, or freeze. So you get hijacked. Those are triggers. But you're gonna get more sleep, you're gonna develop skills of like play, right? How do you find a reliable acupuncturist? You can always email me because I have two, and I don't know if I want to share that on here, but it depends on what county you live in. But honestly, I have two that I don't recommend a functional doctor or getting blood work done or going to acupuncturist unless I go to them myself. And I actually search for people like that for my resources myself. But there is a couple good ones, and you can use your health savings plan money, and this is the problem. It's all cash pay, right? So number one, getting some blood work. Number two, acupuncture, castor oil packs. Now, castor oil is like the cheapest 4,000-year-old thing. The cheapest thing you can do. It's one of the best things you can do. I just ordered the castor oil. You just order, where to order it. I don't have to promote Amazon any more than we already do. And get a little, just get a little wrap. I have like a cloth wrap, that you can just put it on after you put the castor oil. You definitely put it on your liver. That's to help detox. It helps a lot of things. Knees, any aches and pains. You can put castor oil on stuff and help that. Honestly, massage and yoga, one of the best things that you can move toxins through your body, and just that liver detox that I'll send you. Talk therapy, releasing those, right? Processing that, and then doing more deep trauma work. Here's talk therapy, here's prolonged exposure, DBT stuff, and then just doing groups, for example, loss and grief groups. And U of U has one that's excellent. So really releasing grief, loss, and trauma. Remember, that's the outside of that will that's part of the real reason that's going on, because of anger and where the liver holds it. So I will, we're almost out of time, but I will explain that real quick. That's a question about EMDR as I go through the rest of this. EMDR is, so in this is, an EMDR related technique, right? So this is my training. So eye movement, reprocessing, and desensitization, right? So DR, desensitization, and then reprocessing. So EMDR. So we desensitize the traumas, we desensitize the body, we reprocess and reprogram, right? We reprocess it to a new thing. And so EMDR is a bilateral stimulation way to do that through trauma work. It's very simple, honestly. It can be very fast. Scientifically, 6 sessions of full EMDR sessions You have to get resourced in, and we, it's quite different than talk therapy. So here's some more workshops on that, of any of those subjects. Here's the references of most of the books that have to do with this stuff. Like I said, I have lots, but these are one of my favorites. Care of the Soul, Tapping In is Purnell's book right here. I really like Harriet Lerner, The Dance of Anger, Woman's Guide to Changing Patterns of Intimate Relationships, and a lot of irritability stuff you can find in Emotional Code, the Brene Brown books. And so let's see. I am so glad that that's it, that you're here. And honestly, again, that was a lot. So go through it again, find you a little book, practice this. Now, if you practice this, I always recommend 3 times a day, and picking one thing, what you're going to tap in, literally tap in whatever you want in that way. Tap in an emotion, tap in, courage, tap in power, tap in a healthy body, and do it that same way, and then practice it. Stop, get present, and jump in.